ARM, Anglican Radio Ministry, the arm of the Lord.
Welcome to the 2021 Lenten Series titled Strange and Sacred, a 5-part series of talks explaining some of the most perplexing parts of the sacred scripture. This series will focus on passages drawn from the Old Testament. We will explore the underlying spiritual meaning of some of the most head-scratching verses of God's Word. Now let us join Father Darryl as he walks through the second lesson titled The Smart Ass.
Welcome to the second in our Lenten series entitled The Sacred and the Strange. We are looking at those passages in the sacred scriptures which can cause us to scratch our heads and wonder what could be their spiritual meaning. Today, we will look at the book of Numbers and the strange account of the intelligent ass, that is, the wise donkey. Let me begin by setting the background to the narrative, and after that I'll invite you to listen to the biblical passage. Imagine for a moment that you are an ancient king informed of a migrating horde of people moving toward your country's borders. The same group of people that just defeated your arch enemy in a military conflict. Why is this traveling nation settling on your borders? Worse yet, you have heard rumors out of Egypt, that the God of this people ravaged the nation of Egypt, destroyed its armies, and brought that mighty country to its knees. As an ancient king of a moderate kingdom, the first thing you will need to do is what any king of that time would do: call in a prophet, a famed prophet, a rock star in the prophetic world. This is the setting for today's lesson, entitled The Smart Ass. This humorous section of passages features a donkey on whose back is conveyed a very famous prophet, and it is the donkey, not the prophet, who will be shown to reveal the ways of God. Today's strange and sacred passages come from the book of Numbers, chapters 22 through 24. The people of Israel, under the leadership of Moses, have come out of Egypt with much renown. Yes, they have been freed from the slavery of the Egyptians, but it was a freedom won by such mighty acts from the God of Israel that the once mighty kingdom of Egypt is left in ruins. This newly freed nation of Israel has lived 40 years in an uninhabitable wilderness as they waited for God to give them the land he had promised to their ancestor Abraham, the promised land. And now that time has come. Imagine yourself as that king, King Balak of Moab. Now the nation of Moab is actually descended from one of the daughters of Lot. Lot, if you remember, is the nephew of Abraham, whom God had rescued out of the city of Sodom with his daughters. But all Balak knows is that this nation has defeated the mighty Egyptians, conquered his arch enemy, the Amorites, and has camped at a place that borders both the promised land and his land, Moab. So what does King Balak of Moab do when he finds his country on the verge of potential ruin at the hands of the Israelites? He looks for an ally who can call down disaster on his enemy. Balak will call in the most celebrated prophet of the ancient world to come and call down a curse upon the nation of Israel. But let us pause a moment and talk about the practice of prophetic curses in the ancient world. In the ancient world, curses or blessings, if they were done by the right people, they came true. A special blessing had power. The pronouncement of blessings aided in health, guaranteed long life, could bring about the blessing of children, and aid in the accumulation of wealth and honor. A blessing could even guarantee a military victory. Curses, on the other hand, could bestow sickness and death, barrenness in people and cattle, crop failure, poverty, defeat, and disgrace. The place of blessing and cursing is central to today's lesson. Much of the ancient religion was taken up with casting evil spells upon one's enemies and trying to find ways of blocking the effects of the curses pronounced by others. Therefore, the office and position of the ancient prophet was part of any imperial court whose function was to call down either blessings or curses. But in times of real national emergency, the best political policy is to go looking for the most powerful and celebrated prophet and pay him to call down a curse. And at that time, the most renowned prophet of the era, the rock star in the prophetic realm, was Balaam, son of Beor. Balaam was the go-to prophet of the era because his name is not only recorded as issuing blessings and curses in the Bible, but even in an inscription outside of the Bible as well. In 1967, at an archaeological dig in the present-day country of the Jordan, a building was excavated with a story on the wall written about the visions of Balaam, son of Beor, called the Seer of the Gods. In this inscription, Balaam calls down a curse and predicts a disaster, which proved itself true. Balaam was known all over the ancient world for his ability as a prophet to tell the future and to bless and curse. It is to this very prophet that Balak, king of Moab, now turns. He seeks someone to curse the people of Israel. With extravagant gifts and high officials, Balak, the king of Moab, sends a message to the prophet Balaam to come and curse his people by turning his spiritual power of the spoken word against the people of Israel. With the prophet's power to affect the future, the king of Moab hopes to turn the tables on this encamped enemy. Let's now listen to the first part of the biblical narrative, as Balak seeks to persuade the celebrated prophet to come and provide safety to his people. As you listen to the sacred text, notice how Balak confidently believes that curses are determined not by God, but by the prophet, who can conveniently be bought for the right price.
Then the children of Israel moved and camped in the plains of Moab on the side of the Jordan across from Jericho. Now Balak, the son of Zippor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites. And Moab was exceedingly afraid of the people, because they were many. And Moab was sick with dread because of the children of Israel. So Moab said to the elders of Midian,
"Now this company will lick up everything around us, as an ox licks up the grass of the field."
And Balak, the son of Zippor, was king of the Moabites at that time. Then he sent messengers to Balaam, the son of Beor, at Pethor, which is near the river in the land of the sons of his people, to call him, saying,
"Look, a people has come from Egypt. See, they cover the face of the earth and are settling next to me. Therefore, please come at once. Curse this people for me, for they are too mighty for me. Perhaps I shall be able to defeat them and drive them out of the land. For I know that he whom you bless is blessed, and he whom you curse is cursed."
So the elders of Moab and the elders of Midian departed, with the diviner's fee in their hand. And they came to Balaam and spoke to him the words of Balak. And he said to them,
"Lodge here tonight, and I will bring back word to you, as the Lord speaks to me."
So the princes of Moab stayed with Balaam. Then God came to Balaam and said,
"Who are these men with you?"
"Balak the son of Zippor, king of Moab, has sent to me, saying, Look, a people has come out of Egypt, and they cover the face of the earth. Come now, curse them for me. Perhaps I shall be able to overpower them and drive them out.
You shall not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed.
So Balaam rose in the morning and said to the princes of Balak,
Go back to your land, for the Lord has refused to give me permission to go with you.
And the princes of Moab rose and went to Balak and said,
Balaam refuses to come with us.
Then Balak again sent princes, more numerous and more honorable than they. And they came to Balaam and said to him,
Thus says Balak, the son of Zippor, Please let nothing hinder you from coming to me, for I will certainly honor you greatly, and I will do whatever you say to me. Therefore, please, come, curse this people for me.
Then Balaam answered and said to the servants of Balak,
Though Balak were to give me his house full of silver and gold, I could not go beyond the word of the Lord my God to do less or more. Now, therefore, please, you also stay here tonight, that I may know what more the Lord will say to me.
And God came to Balaam at night and said to him,
If the men come to call you, rise and go with them. But only the word which I speak to you, that you shall do.
So Balaam rose in the morning, saddled his donkey, and went with the princes of Moab.
This section is designed to humorously reveal a couple of different theological points. Part of the background irony is that God had already told the nation of Israel that when they conquered the Promised Land, they were not to attack the people of Moab, since they are distant relatives, being descendants of Abraham's nephew Lot. The king of Moab had actually nothing to worry about. The God whom he sought to bribe had already provided for the people of Moab. But the twists of irony and humor have just begun. For I know that whoever you bless is blessed, and whoever you curse is cursed, says King Balak. The king of Moab thinks that the power to bless and curse resides within the prophet. But Balaam, a pagan prophet, knows, at least in this instance, that the God of Israel has already warned him that he will have no power to curse the people of Israel. Although the king of Moab offers Balaam great riches to call down a curse on Israel, we can't help wonder why Balaam has even come to Moab. God has already told him he can't curse Israel. How does this make any sense? The key lies in the prophet's misunderstanding of God. We all tend to see the world through our own eyes. Balaam is a prophet for hire. If you pay him enough, he will come and curse or bless whomever you want. Balaam is persuaded by gifts. So does he believe that God can be persuaded by similar means? Let's listen to the next part of the biblical passage. Notice the insight of the donkey and the blindness of the prophet. Also notice carefully the burst of Balaam's anger and the words he speaks, because they will result in a prophecy he did not anticipate.
Then God's anger was aroused because he went, and the angel of the Lord took his stand in the way as an adversary against him. And he was riding on his donkey, and his 2 servants were with him. Now the donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way, with his drawn sword in his hand. And the donkey turned aside out of the way, and went into the field. So Balaam struck the donkey to turn her back onto the road. Then the angel of the Lord stood in a narrow path between the vineyards, with a wall on this side and a wall on that side. And when the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, she pushed herself against the wall and crushed Balaam's foot against the wall. So he struck her again. Then the angel of the Lord went further and stood in a narrow place where there was no way to turn either to the right hand or to the left. And when the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, she lay down under Balaam. So Balaam's anger was aroused, and he struck the donkey with his staff. Then the Lord opened the mouth of the donkey, and she said to Balaam,
"What have I done to you, that you have struck me these 3 times?
And Balaam said to the donkey,
Because you have abused me. I wish there were a sword in my hand, for now I would kill you.
Am I not your donkey, on which you have ridden ever since I became yours to this day? Was I ever disposed to do this to you?"
No.
Then the Lord opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way with his drawn sword in his hand. And he bowed his head and fell flat on his face. And the angel of the Lord said to him,
"Why have you struck your donkey these 3 times? Behold, I have come out to stand against you, because your way is perverse before me. The donkey saw me and turned aside from me these 3 times. If she had not turned aside from me, surely I would also have killed you by now, and let her live."
I have sinned, for I did not know you stood in the way against me. Now, therefore, if it displeases you, I will turn back.
Go with the men, but only the word that I speak to you, that you shall speak.
So Balaam went with the princes of Balak.
Let us take a minute now to focus on the strangest aspect of this story, the donkey. Actually, there are 2 miracles here, not just one. The miraculous element does not solely rest on the fact that the donkey can talk. As remarkable as the gift of speech is, there's also the miracle of the vision given to the donkey to see into the spiritual realms. The, quote, dumb donkey has eyes to behold the armed angel of God, while the famous, quote, seer of the gods, Balaam, remains sightless. The passage is humorously revealing the blindness of a celebrated prophet. In the 1st chapter of the 2nd letter of Peter in the New Testament, Peter will draw the following lesson. He says, "Do not wander off the right road and follow the footsteps of Balaam, who loved to earn money by doing wrong." As a prophet, Balaam made money as the spokesman of God, and yet in this passage we are shown he has no insight into the things of God. This leads us to the first point of this sacred yet strange story, the power of self-ambition to blind. The power of our interior desires for wealth, for position, for social respect or recognition. All of these have a blinding effect on the choices we make, an effect that blinds us to the will of God or the needs of others or the purposes of our life and being, an effect that can also manifest itself in the form of frustration and impatience with those around us who, like the donkey, are slowing us down on the road to our personal goals. So often, a quick temper is the result of failed sight, of greed, that allows us to disrespect others who we think are blocking our goals. The real blindness of a love of money is a blind search for security apart from God. Let's now turn to the second miraculous point, the actual gift of speech and reason given to the donkey by God himself. As God gave words to a speechless beast, so he will place words of blessing in the prophet's mouth, even as the prophet attempts to pronounce a curse upon the people of Israel. As the narrative concludes, the king of Moab will take the prophet Balaam up on a great hill which overlooks the camp of Israel. There, the king will offer multiple sacrifices to God as a way of trying to win the Lord's favor. On 3 separate occasions, on 3 different hills, a series of lavish offerings are offered to the Lord God. And every time the prophet Balaam opens his mouth to speak, he surprises himself as well as the king of Moab by uttering a prophetic blessing and foretelling of the greatness of the people of Israel. Just as the Lord gave to the dumb donkey words to speak, so now to the prophet God has given words to speak. And both king and prophet are shown that the Lord of Israel is the Lord of all. A Lord who cares for and defends his people, though they are unaware of it. Let us take a moment now to listen to one last section of the biblical text as Balak and Balaam try one last time to bring a curse upon Israel.
Now when Balaam saw that it pleased the Lord to bless Israel, he did not go as at other times to seek to use sorcery, but he set his face toward the wilderness. And Balaam raised his eyes and saw Israel encamped according to their tribes. And the Spirit of God came upon him. Then he took up his oracle and said,
The utterance of Balaam, the son of Beor, the utterance of the man whose eyes are opened, the utterance of him who hears the words of God, who sees the vision of the Almighty, who falls down with eyes wide open. How lovely are your tents, O Jacob, your dwellings, O Israel, like valleys that stretch out, like gardens by the riverside, like aloes planted by the Lord, like cedars beside the waters. He shall pour water from his buckets, and his seed shall be in many waters. His king shall be higher than Agag, and his kingdom shall be exalted. God brings him out of Egypt. He has strength like a wild ox. He shall consume the nations, his enemies. He shall break their bones and pierce them with his arrows. He bows down, he lies down as a lion, and as a lion who shall rouse him? Blessed is he who blesses you, and cursed is he who curses you.
Then Balak's anger was aroused against Balaam, and he struck his hands together. And Balak said to Balaam,
I called you to curse my enemies, and look, you have bountifully blessed them these 3 times. Now therefore flee to your place.
As these chapters come to a close, the reader is left with the impression that all has gone well for the people of God. That God has protected them by turning the evil designs of the king of Moab into blessings. And the famed prophet Balaam is sent away in disappointment and rage, seemingly unrewarded. But the saga will take another odd twist. As we move forward in the book of Numbers, Balaam, who could not utter a word of malediction against the nation of Israel, will manage to bring a curse upon Israel after all. Balaam and the king of Moab could not change God's loyalty to his people, so they hatched a plan to turn the loyalty of God's people away from God. The king of Moab invites the people of Israel to join them in a celebratory feast, a feast to their God, whose name was Chemosh, a feast which included not only the worship of their God, but also the immoral behavior connected to his worship. What the voice of the prophet could not do, temptation will accomplish. Consider the result. Because Israel proved to be unfaithful, we are told that a plague from the Lord their God strikes down 24,000 for their disobedience and worship of other gods. By leading the people of God into acts of unfaithfulness, the prophet Balaam and Balak, king of Moab, are able to successfully call down a curse upon Israel. This takes us to another key point of the passage. Who is the real enemy? The real threat is not outside of us, a malevolent exterior power, some person of authority or nation. The real enemy lurks in our own internal desires, which tempt us away from the protection and covering of God's goodwill and spirit. Again and again, we are tempted to focus our fear on the exterior world outside of us, which, by the way, is under God's providence. God can manage the world from the hilltop. Our focus needs to be on staying alert against neglecting the real danger, the danger which lies within our own heart, in our own actions and choices. By way of summary, what is the central ideas contained in this sacred and strange narrative? As with Balaam, it is our own internal desires, greed in whatever form, that blinds us to what is best for us and for others. As with the people of Israel, it is our own internal desires which lead us to disobedience and which often result in negative consequences. Lent, therefore, is about learning to shift the focus of our gaze. It calls us to look carefully at what is going on within ourselves. Lent is about asking Jesus, who overcame every temptation, whose focus was on the will of his Father, to open our eyes and give us the strength to remain loyal to our God in a world of temptations. Now, by the way, there is yet one more twist. Remember what Balaam uttered back when his donkey would not go forward? He said, "If I had a sword, I would strike you dead." According to the biblical tradition, and evident in this narrative, is the principle that an deserved curse by a prophet is effective, but an undeserved curse will fall back upon him who utters it. Balaam said, "I would strike you dead with a sword," to the undeserving donkey. In Numbers 31:8, we are told that this celebrated prophet of the ancient world is killed by the sword during a battle, not with Moab, but when the nation of Israel was capturing the promised land and in a battle with another people, the people of Midian. And so we have come to the end of this our discussion. We have heard about the faithfulness of our God, and may our God strengthen us in the inward person for obedience and faithfulness.
Today's message reminds us of God's protection, even when we are unaware we need protecting. May this message give us hope in the love of our Father